"Got it," she whispered. Then she pulled. Mia's scream cut through the room like a knife. Arthur lunged forward, his hands reaching to shove Elena away, to stop her from ripping out his daughter's life support. But Elena braced her other hand against Mia's hip and held firm. Elena stumbled backward, breathing hard. In her hand, held up to the lamplight, was a small metallic device, twisted, surgical, deliberate. It was roughly 2 inches long, coated in a strange gel, with threading on one end like a screw. It looked like something that belonged in an engine, not a child's body. Arthur stared at it. His brain couldn't process what he was seeing. What is that? 3 weeks earlier, I'd walked into the Sterling mansion for the first time, my shoes squeaking on marble floors that probably cost more than I'd earn in a decade. The house smelled like money, leather and fresh flowers, and that clean, empty smell of spaces that are maintained but not really lived in. I'd taken the job because I had to, because nursing homes and hospitals wouldn't touch me anymore, not after St. Catherine's, not after I'd removed a patient's catheter against a doctor's direct orders, because I knew it was infected and was going to kill him if I waited for approval. I was right. The patient lived. I saved his life. I also got fired, blacklisted, and lost my nursing license for insubordination and practicing outside my scope. Now I cleaned toilets in a house with 17 bathrooms and tried not to think about the 8 years I'd spent learning how to save lives. Arthur Sterling met me in his office, a room lined with books that looked unread and awards that looked unimportant. He didn't look at me when he spoke. His eyes stayed fixed on a silver-framed photo on his desk, a little girl on a beach, running through waves, her hair wild and her smile huge, real. "My daughter has a rare condition." His voice was flat, rehearsed, like he'd said these words 1,000 times. "Total bladder paralysis. It's progressive, degenerative, and there's no cure." His hands rested on the mahogany desk, and I noticed the tremor in his fingers, the same kind of shake my ex-husband had when the bank called about the mortgage we couldn't pay, the shake of someone holding on too tight to something slipping away. "She requires constant medical supervision from Dr. Vance. He's a specialist, the only one in the country who's had success with this condition." Arthur finally looked at me, his eyes red-rimmed, exhausted. "There are rules, strict rules. No one touches her medical port except Dr. Vance. No water without his approval. No deviation from his protocol. Can you follow rules, Miss Torres?" I thought about my daughter's tuition bill sitting on my kitchen counter, about the electric company's final notice, about the 20-block walk I'd have to make home because I couldn't afford the bus. "Yes, sir," I said. "I can follow rules." He nodded and looked back at the photo. "My wife died 2 years ago. Similar symptoms. Started with bladder issues, then kidney failure, then..." His voice caught. I met Mia on my second day. She was curled in a hospital bed that had been set up in what should have been a bright, happy child's room. Instead, it looked like a pediatric ICU. Monitors, IV stands, the medical port visible on her side under her nightgown. She was 8 years old and weighed maybe 50 pounds. Pale skin, dark circles under her eyes, thin hair that looked like it would come out if you brushed it wrong. But what broke my heart wasn't how sick she looked. It was the performance. Her father walked in and Mia's whole body changed. She sat up straighter, smiled, held up a crayon drawing she'd been working on. "Look, Daddy, I drew us at the beach, like the picture in your office." Her voice was bright, interested, completely at odds with the pain I could see in the tight corners of her mouth. Arthur kissed her forehead, praised the drawing, asked about her morning in that careful, gentle way parents use when they're terrified of the answer. Mia told him she felt pretty good and that she'd eaten almost all her breakfast. Both lies. I'd seen her breakfast tray. She'd managed 3 bites of toast. The moment Arthur left for a business call, Mia collapsed back into her pillows. The smile disappeared, her small hands pressed against her swollen abdomen, and tears leaked from the corners of her eyes. She didn't make a sound, just cried silently, like she'd learned that noise brought attention she didn't want. I sat in the chair beside her bed, keeping my distance, keeping my hands to myself. "Does it hurt?" I asked quietly. She nodded, not looking at me. Can you tell your dad? He'd want to know. No, her voice was barely a whisper. He cries when I tell him. He goes to Mom's room after and I can hear him through the wall. He thinks I don't hear, but I do. Jesus Christ, an 8-year-old protecting her father from her own suffering. You're carrying a lot for a kid, I said. I don't want to be. She finally looked at me and her eyes were so old, so tired. But if I tell him how bad it really is, he'll cry and then I'll cry and then we'll both just cry forever. Dr. Vance came every Tuesday and Friday at exactly 2 p.m. He drove a black Mercedes that cost more than I'd make in 5 years and wore suits that probably cost what I spent on groceries in a month. He was tall, tan, silver-haired, the kind of doctor who belongs on magazine covers, who makes you feel like everything will be fine just by walking in the room. I watched him the way I used to watch medication carts in the ICU, looking for the detail that doesn't fit, the thing that's wrong. He was always charming with Arthur, used terms like breakthrough protocol and cellular regeneration therapy and reversing the genetic markers. He'd rest a reassuring hand on Arthur's shoulder and say things like, "We're winning this battle," and "She's responding beautifully to treatment." Then he'd go to Mia's room alone to clean and maintain the port. That's when I started noticing the pattern. Mia was always worse after Dr. Vance left, not better. Worse. She'd be thirstier, her pain would spike, her skin would flush, and her breathing would get shallow. One Friday, I stood outside her door while he worked, pretending to dust the hallway table. I heard Mia scream, a real scream, not the careful whimpers she made around her father. "Almost done, sweetheart," Dr. Vance said, his voice smooth as honey. "You're so brave. Just a little more discomfort and we'll have you feeling better in no time." When he left 15 minutes later, Mia was sobbing into her pillow, her body shaking. Dr. Vance walked past me with a professional smile, adjusting his cufflinks. "She's progressing nicely. The treatment is working exactly as expected." I found his medical bag by the front door, partially unzipped while he talked to Arthur in the foyer. On top of the supplies was a discarded wrapper. I picked it up, read it once, then again. Flow Restrictor Industrial Medical Supply, item FR-47, warning for controlled restriction of fluid systems. Not flow assistant, not therapeutic device. Restrictor. I took a photo of that wrapper with hands that shook so badly I had to brace my phone against the wall. Then I walked 20 blocks home in the rain because I'd already spent my bus money on my daughter's inhaler refill. My apartment smelled like instant ramen and that specific kind of loneliness that comes from working 70 hours a week just to stay poor. The paint was peeling in the bathroom, the heating didn't work right, but it was mine, and I'd fought to keep it after the divorce. My nursing textbooks were still in boxes in the closet, gathering dust along with my old life, my old identity, the person I used to be before I learned that doing the right thing gets you punished. I pulled them out at 2 a.m., made coffee that went cold while I forgot to drink it, opened my laptop and searched flow restrictor medical device and bladder paralysis fraud and iatrogenic urinary retention. At 3:47 a.m., I found it. A news article from 2019. A doctor in Connecticut named Marshall Brennan. He'd installed blockages in patients' urinary catheters to manufacture complications that required expensive treatment. He'd done it for 14 patients over 3 years, made millions in insurance fraud. He went to prison for 15 years. Every single patient made a full recovery once the blockages were removed. I pulled up Mia's medical timeline that Arthur had left on the kitchen counter, a detailed log of every symptom, every treatment, every specialist visit. Her symptoms started exactly 2 years and 3 months ago, 6 weeks after her mother's funeral, right when Arthur would have been most vulnerable, most desperate, most willing to trust a doctor who promised to save her daughter from the same mysterious fate. I sat there in the blue glow of my laptop screen in my cold apartment, looking at the photo of that wrapper, and I knew what was happening, and I knew that saying something could cost me everything.
I couldn't sleep anymore. I'd pace the mansion at night when I was supposed to be off duty, my footsteps echoing on marble that was always cold, always spotless, always empty. The house was like a mausoleum. 17 bathrooms and no one laughing. Fresh flowers delivered daily and no one to appreciate them. Silence, thick as walls. I'd pass by the closed door that had to be the wife's room. I could tell by the way Arthur's footsteps would slow when he walked past it, by the way he'd rest his hand on the doorknob for just a second before moving on, by the way no staff was ever allowed inside to clean it. One night at 4 a.m., I found him sitting in the kitchen, still in his suit from whatever meeting had kept him at the office through dinner. He was staring at his phone, watching what looked like old home videos. I could hear a woman's laugh through the speaker, bright and real. "She loved that beach," he said without looking up. He didn't seem surprised I was there. Maybe he'd heard me pacing. "The one in the photo in my office. We went every summer. Mia would spend hours in the water. She was fearless." I poured 2 cups of the coffee I'd made for myself, set one in front of him. He wrapped his hands around it but didn't drink. "Mia looks like her," I said. "Everyone says that," his voice cracked. "Everyone says she's just like her mother. Same smile, same laugh, same—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "That's what scares me. What if genetics means she's doomed to the same fate?" "Mr. Sterling, Dr. Vance is the only one who understood," Arthur continued like he hadn't heard me. "Everyone else said it was psychological, or that I was overreacting, or that she'd grow out of it. But Vance knew. He'd seen it before. He said if we acted fast, if we were aggressive with treatment, we could save her from what happened to Sarah." He finally looked at me. His eyes were desperate, pleading, like he needed me to confirm he'd made the right choice. "I'm doing everything I can. Everything. I can't lose her too." I tried to be professional about it. Careful. I called Dr. Vance's office on my lunch break, sitting in the small staff room with its flickering fluorescent light and its coffee that tasted like plastic. "I'm calling from the Sterling residence," I said to the receptionist. "I'm Mia's primary daytime caregiver, and I had some questions about her protocol." Dr. Vance doesn't take questions from household staff. The response was immediate, practiced. "I understand, but I'm the one administering her medications and monitoring her symptoms throughout the day, and I just want to clarify, all questions go through Mr. Sterling. I've tried that, but Mr. Sterling is at work most days, and I need to know—" Click. I tried 3 more times over the next week, got the same response. On my 5th call, a different receptionist answered. Older voice, tired, with the specific weariness of someone who's seen too much. "Look, honey," she said quietly, like she was checking over her shoulder. "Between you and me, stop calling. Dr. Vance doesn't like staff asking questions about his patients." "Why not? I'm just trying to—" "Because questions lead to second opinions, and second opinions lead to lawsuits. Just do your job, keep your head down, and let the doctor do his." She hung up before I could respond. I sat there listening to the dial tone, thinking about St. Catherine's Hospital, about the nurse manager who'd pulled me aside and said almost the exact same thing. "Keep your head down, Elena. Follow protocol. It's not your job to think, it's your job to follow orders." I started watching Mia more carefully, taking mental notes the way I used to on hospital rounds. Her abdomen was distended, rigid. She had pressure symptoms, constant urge to urinate but inability to void, pain levels that spiked after Dr. Vance's visits and gradually improved between them, fever that came and went, signs of urinary retention that any first-year nursing student would recognize.
But it wasn't just the symptoms, it was the port itself. I'd seen hundreds of medical devices during my nursing career. Ports, catheters, drainage tubes, feeding tubes. This one looked wrong. The external housing was larger than necessary. The mechanism was more complex than a simple drainage system needed to be, and there was a small valve on the side that I'd never seen on any legitimate medical port. One afternoon, when Arthur was at work and Dr. Vance wasn't scheduled, I asked Mia if I could look at the port. Just look. She nodded, her eyes wary. I lifted her nightgown carefully. The port was attached to her lower left side, just above her hip. The skin around it was inflamed, irritated. But what caught my attention was the valve, a small metallic dial built into the external housing. I didn't touch it, just examined it visually. It had markings like a timer or a pressure gauge, and it was set to a position labeled restricted, not open, not normal flow. Mia, I said carefully, when Dr. Vance cleans your port, does he turn this little dial? She nodded. He says it's to regulate the pressure, to keep my body from being overwhelmed by too much drainage at once. That made no sense, no medical sense at all. Urinary systems don't need throttling. They need to drain freely, unless someone wanted to create a blockage on purpose.
I made a decision. I was going to tell Arthur. Not about my suspicions. He'd never believe the maid over the celebrity doctor, but I could ask questions, plant seeds of doubt, make him curious enough to seek a second opinion. I waited until he came home early one Thursday, found him in his office reviewing contracts. "Mr. Sterling," I said from the doorway, "do you have a moment?" He looked up, surprised. Staff didn't usually seek him out. "Is something wrong with Mia?" "No, I was wondering about her diagnosis, about the total bladder paralysis. Has she ever been seen by another specialist for a second opinion?" His expression hardened. "Dr. Vance is the leading expert in the country on this condition." "I know, I just thought, I've consulted with 17 specialists, Miss Torres. 17 before Dr. Vance. Do you know what they told me?" His voice was rising. "They told me it was in her head, that she was acting out because of her mother's death, that I was an overprotective father who needed to let his daughter have normal childhood illnesses. Dr. Vance was the only one who took her seriously." "I understand, but have you been questioning Dr. Vance's treatment?" "No, sir. Because if you can't follow the protocols I've established, I can find someone who will." The threat hung in the air between us. I thought about my daughter's tuition bill, about the electric company, about the 20-block walk home in the cold. "I apologize, Mr. Sterling," I said. "I was out of line." He turned back to his contracts, dismissed me without another word. I stood in the hallway outside his office, hands shaking, and realized Arthur Sterling couldn't hear the truth. Not from me, not from anyone. His grief had made him a prisoner, and Dr. Vance held the key. The screaming started at 11:17 p.m. on a Tuesday night. I was in my small room in the staff wing, lying on my bed fully clothed because I'd been too exhausted to change. Mia's scream cut through the walls like a blade. I ran barefoot down the marble hallways, my heart hammering. Arthur was already in Mia's room, pacing beside her bed, phone pressed to his ear. Mia was writhing, her abdomen distended like I'd never seen it before, her skin burning, her eyes rolled back. This wasn't pain. This was acute urinary retention at a critical level. Her bladder was going to rupture. "Dr. Vance, please, it's Arthur Sterling. This is the 8th message." Arthur's voice was ragged. His expensive watch caught the lamplight as he dialed again with shaking hands. I'd seen this before. That same frantic repetition, the same helpless terror. I'd felt it myself the night my daughter stopped breathing from croup, calling 911 over and over while the line was busy. Mia reached toward me, her small hand grasping at air. "Elena, please, please make it stop. It's going to explode. I can feel it exploding." Her words were slurring. She was going into shock. "Mr. Sterling," I said, my voice cutting through his panic, "we need to take her to the emergency room, right now." "Dr. Vance said no emergency rooms. He said they won't understand her condition. They'll make it worse."
Mr. Sterling, her bladder is going to rupture. She needs emergency intervention. Call Dr. Vance again. He's not answering. My voice came out harder than I meant. He's not answering, and your daughter is dying right now in front of us, and we're wasting time. Arthur stared at me, his face pale. For a moment, I thought I'd gotten through. Then he shook his head. No emergency rooms. Dr. Vance will call back. He always calls back. That's when I knew. Arthur Sterling couldn't save his daughter. His grief, his fear, his desperation, they'd made him blind. If Mia was going to survive this night, it wasn't going to be because of her daughter's money or connections or love. It was going to be because someone broke the rules.